Directions on how to make my Japanese chicken saimen kale soup. Start with, as you can see, about 4 tablespoons of olive oil, and I put a bunch of cracked pepper in there, ground black pepper, and a sprinkle of red pepper flakes. And here I have my vegetables that I've prepared and chopped. You can see about how much they are. Usually I use one small white sweet onion, but today I used my green onion and chopped it up, and I have a little bit of regular onion in there too. 2 carrots sliced, chunky. I used 1 stalk of celery, and make sure you get some of the leaves because that's the most flavorful part. I have 4 really large mushrooms in here, white mushrooms. I think that's enough, and with mushrooms, you might not like mushrooms, but it's amazing how much flavor they add to the soup, so do add them, because you can pick them out later, but it's going to make the soup taste really better. And then underneath here is about 3 cloves of garlic that I smashed up. And then I have my chicken that I prepared, 4 relatively small chicken thighs, which I've taken my kitchen shears and cut off almost all of the fat. And I think this is about enough meat for this amount of soup. Unless you want it really meaty, then you can add a little bit. I've got my oil pretty hot now. Not real hot, because you're not supposed to get olive oil real hot. And I add my vegetables. This is hard to cook with one hand. As you can see, it just about covers the bottom of the pan. That's how many vegetables I have all together. I always use this amount of vegetables, and it's pretty good because I add the extra vegetables later on, because these will cook down and just mainly be for flavor. So go ahead and let these cook for a while until they start. About 3 minutes, long enough for me to check my email. And the vegetables they're not soft yet, but they're cooking. And I have the heat on like medium, because you want this to be hot, because you're caramelizing your vegetables, which is going to bring out a lot more flavor. So you don't want to steam them with a low temperature. So now I'm going to add, I wish I had one of those GoPro cameras, and add my chicken. And this is another reason why I want it to be hot, is because I want my chicken to actually almost start frying in the bottom of the pan. I shove the vegetables aside so that the chicken can be down right on the bottom of the pan, so that they'll start getting almost brown. And if you need a little bit more oil, which I think I do, it's been about 4 minutes maybe. I've been watching this closely because you can see it's really hot. It's really almost frying. So I've switched to my favorite cooking utensil, so I can flip my chicken over. And you want to stir the vegetables a little bit so they don't burn. You don't want them to burn. Flip my chicken over. And actually, I would make that a little bit darker if I'd kept it there a little bit longer, because I like it when it's almost brown on one side. So I can do it to the other side, because the browner it is, the richer it is. And you can see that the bottom of the pan, you can't really see it because it's starting to get sort of brownish from all the breakdown of the vegetables. So let this cook for another, sorry, I needed to add about 2 tablespoons of the chicken broth paste. That I just use this that you get from the grocery store, and in North Carolina you'd use Ann's or Annie's, because that tastes even better. And this bouillon stock base, chicken base, is so much better than your typical chicken broth, which you can use if you have to, because it has an amazing amount of more flavor, because they've just added things like turmeric and other stuff. So make sure you get this kind of stuff. Whoops, start my spoon. And add that. And so that's down in the bottom, and then I have about, for now, 4 cups of water. I usually add a little bit more than 4 cups of water. I might add 2 more. He says probably 6 cups of water total. And let that stir. But you can see that the chicken, well, once I add 2 more cups, the chicken will be covered, and then you can steam it. Sometimes I add this oriental spice that I get it down to earth just for a little more flavor. And if you don't have that, you can just, if you want, add a pinch of seasoned salt for extra flavor. So you can see that the chicken's covered with the 6 cups of water, and I've turned my stove down to low because I want it to simmer now slowly and cook. So I'm going to cover it and let it cook. It's 4 o'clock now, and I'll cook it till, well, I'll cook it at least an hour on low if I can get away with it, or an hour and maybe 20 minutes. Longer the better. Okay, it's been an hour, or yeah, about an hour, a little more than an hour. I'm going to take the chicken out of the pan. You can see it looks nice and rich. And I'll debone the chicken and pull it into pieces. Do not chop it into pieces. Pull it apart, because if you chop it up, it just looks yucky. So be sure and just shred the meat. And then this is still on low, and I'll just let it simmer really low with the lid on until the chicken cools off and I have it shredded up. The chicken is all chopped up, and put it back in the broth. And I got some curly kale this morning at the farmer's market, and I took half of it and washed it real good. Chopped it up with my kitchen shears. Pieces are, anyway, if you don't want to use kale, if you don't like kale, just use frozen spinach, which cooks a lot faster. And then sometimes I put frozen peas in there, and if I have an ear or 2 of fresh corn, I'll take that off the cob and put that in there. Although if you have kale, let that cook first before you add the others. So I'm going to turn the stove up a little bit and put the lid back on and cook that. So now the kale is cooked down, and I threw in a handful of frozen peas just for an additional vegetable. And then I took my fresh noodles, which these are saimen, but I prefer yakisoba noodles. Well, it does say yakisoba, but I like the thicker yakisoba. Here they are. I've already rinsed them in hot water because I don't like to add them straight from the package, because I prefer them to be rinsed. And put them in my soup. Or you could use the dry, and if you use the dry, be sure and cook that ahead of time and then rinse. And then I'm going to stir in my noodles into my soup. And then, just to make things a little easier, I sort of cut them with my kitchen shears. Turn the stove way down. Cover, and here's your soup. So try cooking it. I hope you call me if you have any questions. Bye.